It's early morning, somewhere in the world, and on a quiet suburban street, it's time for the sheep to arise. After washing and drinking heavily fluoridated water, it's time for the sheep to start its day of enslavement. But first, the sheep must commute. For those that can, they use their own personal heavily tracked vehicles. Others choose heavily monitored private vehicle taxi hire. But for those less fortunate, they are left with the bus.
Well, get the mask on.
It is here the sheep first comes into contact with other sheep. Although eye contact is very rarely made, as each other sheep is too engrossed into its own personal tracking beacon, they rarely even look up, never mind care enough to want to know what's going on around them. Too busy addicted to their own personal tracking devices, constantly uploading every detail about their entire life to the big eye in the sky. After a hard day's graft of making the rich even richer and being enslaved to the system, it's time for the sheep to forage for food. Guidance is to stay at home, where the sheep can be more easily monitored and contained. But for those who do venture out, they must visit the supermarket.
May I have your attention, please? This is the system speaking. You are now entering the supermarket. You must wear a mask at all times. All your human emotion must be masked at all times. Do not attempt to talk to other sheep within the building. You must stay at least 2 meters away from all other sheep at all times. Maintain social distancing and stay away from other sheep. Do not attempt to communicate at all with other sheep within the building. You must walk single file and follow the designated arrows at all times. Your entire life is tracked and monitored. You must do as you're told at all times. Upon collecting your food, make your way to the ever-expanding robotic scanning zones to pay. Remember, we are watching your every move. You must scan to pay. You must scan to pay. You must scan to pay. Only stop scanning when you are fully programmed that scanning is what you must do. Only once you have scanned, you may leave and eat.
Making the feast is a concoction of huge dollops of aspartame, mixed with other neurotoxins such as lead, mercury, ethanol. Genetically modified crops are added for texture. Sprinkled in with manganese and toluene. Infused with huge portions of all sorts of other processed shite. All stirred together with vast lashings of heavily fluoridated water.
Keep going.
Numbing down, day by day, any ability the sheep has left to be able to think for itself. A brain of easily led mush, just in time for the night's entertainment. The television. An endless array of never-ending channels, all delivering subliminal messages and distracting the sheep from what is really going on. All leading up to the highlight of the night, the epitome of the sheep's day, the news. For once the chimes start to notify of the significant hour, and once the fanfares of the news begin, nothing will be able to awaken the sheep from being programmed.
Yo, sheep, wake up. Yo, sheep, wake the fuck up. Oh, sheep, yo, wake up.
Any attempts are fruitless. The sheep is now hypnotized, and the programming has begun. Installing segments of information of how the system wants it to see the world, biased views to influence support for more wars, massively creating fear into the sheep to give its freedoms away to the system, all in bite-sized, easily digestible pockets of information for the easily led sheep. Once the day's mind programming has finished, and the sheep is content he knows the full story of what's going on in the world, it's time for the sheep to retire to bed. And after fucking its other sheep all over, it's time for the sheep to breed. In their first early years of life, baby sheep are introduced to their own tracking devices, drawn in by bright colours and new sounds. Addiction is inevitable. And this addiction follows the sheep through its teenage years, becoming its only method of communication. An addiction which follows them right through to adulthood. Every movement and message they make through their entire life, tracked and monitored by the big eye in the sky. One wants the sheep to wake the fuck up, but they never do. For thus, the sheep is ready for a lifetime of controlled enslavement. You will be controlled and enslaved. You will be controlled and enslaved. You will be controlled and enslaved.
Nah, fuck that shit.